First things first, I got online and I found a company that makes a singlet that's got the Eagle Globe and Anchor on it. So I'll be rocking the Marine Corps come March, and it'll match my hair, and I'll have my John Hack signature red, white, and blue Captain America looking sleeves on. It's coming together, people. There's 3 types of videos that seem to really do well in the fitness community, or whatever, industry, whatever you want to call it. You got your natty or nots, which are stupid, but they're fun. You know, hey, look on drugs or not. Those are always fun. And they do really well with views. The second one is gym fails, where people almost kill themselves, like me, and when I dropped that bar on my neck, that got like 3,000 views. I was like, wow, people really like to see train wrecks. And then the third one is PEDs, steroids. Did you ever hear something so dumb that it just makes your nose start bleeding? You know, I watch a lot of videos and people talk about PED use and good, bad, whatever, but then you just hear stupid stuff and it's like, man, can we have an intelligent conversation about this? Like an objective one. A while ago, I did a video, just a short. Someone said, how much advantage do steroids give you? For real, like, you guys get a ton. If I did steroids, I'd be able to bench 500 pounds. Like, okay, I said my answer was 10 to 13%. Woo, you should have seen the comments section. Like, how'd you get those numbers? That's bullshit, that's nonsense. It gives you like 30, 40, 50%. You know, they make you 50% stronger. Okay, how did I get those numbers? Fair question. Well, I'll tell you exactly my methodology. Now, is it the most accurate? I don't know, but it's information that's posted online that you can actually go look at and do yourself. I went to Open Powerlifting, where they keep all the records, and I pulled up three weight classes, 198, 220, 242, and I aggregated the numbers, 100 lifters, untested, tested. So tested division supposedly is all natural lifters. And those numbers, I added all those up and made a nice bell curve, which an average, you know the old bell curve thing? And I did the same thing for the untested guys, the guys that are all on steroids, even though not all of them are, believe it or not. There's a lot of tested people that will compete in untested meets because they're local and they're available. But regardless, all the records at the top, you can assume probably all those guys are on something. So, useful information. Now, the average I got was between 10 and 13%. That depends on how much of the outliers you tossed out. You know, you do your regular statistics things. I ran calculations a few times and they came up a slightly different for each weight class, which is why I said between 10 and 13%. How accurate is that? I don't know, because I had somebody comment that he himself got 25%. And I would say, well, you would be a genetic outlier. You'd be one of the ones that we threw out because you're so much higher than the rest of them. And then there's guys at the low end that take a ton of stuff and don't get any help. They just don't respond. Or they didn't respond to what they took. You know, or they did stupid cycles that they got off of forums. The bottom line is, most guys that are anti-PED or like vehemently against it don't know what they're talking about. They don't know anything about what's available, what people take, how they affect the body. None of it. They just don't know. They just see steroids, and it's ubiquitous. It's anything you take that helps you is bad, and they all work the same. You're all evil. Now, one thing that bothers me is TRT seems to have become the new natty or not. You know, like a lot of guys that are on supposedly testosterone replacement therapy are kind of using that, I think, as like an excuse. Like, that's the new natty or not videos, is you could like, are you really on TRT or are you on testosterone? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Unless a doctor prescribed it and you're on the amount the doctor prescribed, you're on testosterone. Is there anything wrong with that? No, I don't think so. I'm not for or against anything. What I am for is useful information so that you can make informed decisions. You're a grown man or woman. You can do whatever you want. It's a free country, and it's nobody's business except for yours. But let's at least get good information out there. You know, what's true and what's not. I was watching this video 2 days ago where this guy says, man, if I was on steroids, I'd be benching 500 pounds. I'm like, would you? So you're telling me at your weight, which is like not much more than mine, and your age, which is the same as mine, if you took steroids, you would be the #1 bench presser of all fucking time? Yeah, okay. If you look at the numbers and the records, those are the guys that are the best. And there's, you just don't, it doesn't work like that. You don't take drugs and become the best lifter in history. Like, you know, the guys think that they're just going to take drugs and wake up and be Ronnie Coleman. Did you see Ronnie Coleman as a natural? You don't think genetics have a little bit to do with it? I mean, he was better as a natural than a lot of those guys were enhanced. His physique out of the gate was already top 10, top 15 natural. And then when he started doing whatever he did, then you got the Ronnie Coleman that we all know and love. God bless him. And guys say, they say things like, well, if you ever stop, you'll just shrivel up. At 45, I was 100% natural. And my total was 1,480 pounds, somewhere around there. As a natural, I weighed 198, well, I was in the 198 weight class, but I was right around 200 pounds. Okay? 45 years old, 200 pounds, 100% natural, just below a 1,500 pound total. I went on the sauce, if you will, and now I'm going to be 50 this year. I weigh 225 pounds. And my total, if I do well, I have a chance to get in the 1700s, but realistically in the gym I've been hitting mid 1600s. So that's a 200 pound difference over 3 years of training. And of course, I've done cycles before each competition. So yes, I'm sure that helped immensely, but it, you know, it had nothing to do with the fact that I trained my ass off, and I have been for fucking years. I was a power lifter, like I was training for 10 years before I went on TRT. Started with TRT, and then I started dipping my toes in the cycles before the meet, you know. And I've done 4 small cycles, and I say small, I do. I'll tell you guys exactly what I took, and exactly how much, and exactly for how long. Now, the point I was trying to make is he basically says that, you know, anyone who uses steroids, it's all fake, and it's just your muscles are going to fall off and you're going to shrivel up. That can happen. Now, if you're one of these gym bros and you just start working out and you watch a Trend Twins video and you decide, you know what, screw this, I'm just going to take drugs and get bigger, you can do that, and you will. And then if you get off, you're going to lose it all because you didn't have shit to begin with. But if you spent years honing a decent physique as a natural, and you got to where you're starting to get to your natural ability, and then you go on, you're not going to lose all that. You have that already. Now, genetics have a huge part in it. I'm a naturally stocky guy. If I didn't train at all, never touched a weight, I was pretty big to begin with. And so, I mean, I was like, it's easy for me to get like this. I didn't have to put a ton of effort into it because I was already one of those guys that was just built like a meatball. You know, I trained up as a natural, like I said, to right about 200 pounds, and I had a pretty decent physique. If you want to see what I looked like as a natural, you can go back to the beginning of when I made this channel, all those videos before I painted my weights, roughly, right around there is about when I started, when I went on testosterone. And you could see, like, yeah, I'm a lot more built, I'm a lot more cut, and I'm a lot more lean, but essentially I'm about the same size. I had a pretty decent physique as a natural. If you're going to tell me that I'm going to lose that, then you don't know what you're talking about. And there's 2 terms that I think people need to educate themselves on, because when they hear steroids, they just think, oh, you just take steroids nonstop, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That's a good way to die. Okay, cycles are usually like, I don't know, 12, 13 weeks before a competition. But there's 2 terms, blasting, cruising. And cruising. What is cruising? Well, after you're done with blasting's a cycle. Cycle you do before a competition, however long that is for whatever your goals are, depending on what you're taking. You do that for a certain amount of weeks, and then afterwards, some people come off completely and they do what's, post-cycle therapy, and they try to restart their natural testosterone production. Me, because I was on TRT to begin with, because I had low testosterone as a 50-year-old man, I'm always going to be on TRT, and that's a choice I made, and I'm glad I did, and I'd make it 100 times over, and it's improved the quality of my life in every single way that's conceivable. You'd be hard to argue that it hasn't. I'll always be on TRT, so when my cycle's over with, I'm cruising. I'm on a minimal amount, and I'm in the lowest amount of testosterone as I can be to maintain what I have. And with just maintenance lifting, sure, I might lose a little bit. I might shrink a tiny little bit. I might maybe lose a tiny bit of definition. But I haven't lost anything in 3 years. And very short periods of that time have I been on like what you would consider steroids, actual cycles. Now these guys, they believe what they want to believe, and they're stupid. I think that one guy, he was just reading off the internet, and he was reading the side effects of steroids, and it's like, okay, which steroids are you talking about? How long are they doing them for? Cite your references. Let us see that webpage you're reading. Like, where are you getting this information from? And you can just tell he's reading down it, and he's thinking he's smart, and it's making his points for him, and I'm like, there's so many holes in this argument. It's just unintelligible, and it's bad information. It's misinformation, really. To be clear, I'm not advocating that anybody go on anything. And what really bums me out is there's a trend online where people are now being open and honest about the use. I think that's great. That's what everybody's wanted all this whole time, is people just be honest. If you're on something, just admit it. But there's a disturbing trend I've noticed where younger men, guys in their 20s, maybe early 30s, appear to be glorifying the drug use. And I really worry about young impressionable kids watching that stuff and thinking that because and I'll include myself in that group, are open and honest about what we do. And it's like, so Zach Tellender, he had a good analogy. A young man in his 20s wants to go clubbing, right? So he asks a man in his 40s, hey, do you go clubbing? And I'd say, yes, sometimes. I used to. And the young man asks him, what's the scoop? And the old man says, I wish I'd have known now, or then what I know now. If I would have known then what I know now, I would have relaxed a little. I wouldn't have drank so much. I mean, we used to go to the club, and I would come home with these smoking hot babes, and it was awesome, and it was a lot of fun, but it got addictive, and I would wake up with hangovers, and I started missing work. So I'd be a little more careful and reserved, Plus, it kind of hurt my relationships, and then that young man, all he heard in that entire conversation was, I used to go home with smoking hot babes every night. That's it. That's all he heard. So he's like, oh, I'm going to try that for sure. So we have a responsibility in our message to make sure that we're not glorifying this stuff, because the simple fact of the matter is, this is dangerous. If you're in your 20s, you're not even fully developed yet, and you're messing with your endocrine system. You're changing yourself genetically. Your irreversible damage you can be doing to yourself, irreversible organ damage. Your hair can fall out. It'll make you look old. There's tons of just horrible side effects. Your wee-wee will stop working in some cases. Like, if you don't know what you're doing. And then, of course, the ultimate sacrifice, death. Most young men, if you're like me, we were a little bit insecure, and we wanted to get all beefed up so that people would start respecting us, and the ladies would like it. Yeah, baby. But here's what I found out. Most women don't care about this. This is for other dudes, my guys. You know what I mean? I'm in the gym. I never had one single woman come up to me and be like, yeah, nice glutes, brother. It was always another dude. Every woman I've talked to, they like a man that's in shape. You know, they like an obtainable natural physique, a guy that takes care of himself, goes to the gym, is strong, works out, but doesn't look like a freak of nature. If it doesn't look natural, it isn't. And there's like that uncanny valley thing where you cross that threshold and it's kind of off-putting. It really is. So that's something else to consider, is like, what are your motivations? What are you doing what you're doing for? And that brings me back to, like, who do you take advice from? Well, the first thing I try to think about whenever I'm listening to somebody talk about this stuff is, what are their motivations? Why are they talking about it? Well, you can tell the people that just hate on others and are mad because people can do stuff that they can't do, and they're using it as a cope, as an excuse as to why they can't achieve something. If you got anger, resentment, hatred, or what I like to call contempt prior to investigation, if you're hearing that, then likely their motivations, they're not in good faith. And there's a good chance you're probably going to get bad information from them, and it's not believable. On the flip side, you get guys that, they work their asses off, they got these awesome physiques, and they use drugs, and they don't want people to think that takes away from all the hard work they did, because they know as soon as people hear steroids, they just assume you don't even lift, you just take drugs, and you just woke up and looked like that. And like, yeah, cheater, you didn't do anything to deserve that body. You didn't put in years, sometimes decades of training to hone that. You just took a bunch of drugs, and and you got guys like me who are very goal-driven. We have a reason why we're doing things, and it has nothing to do with anyone but ourselves. My goal is I want to be the best masters lifter in my weight class, and I'm very, very driven. Now we could have another video about talking about like where my motivation should be as an almost 50-year-old man, and whether or not it's healthy to keep pursuing this, and how long am I going to do it for, and when does obsession become dangerous, and we can have all those discussions. But I'm doing this for that reason. Like, I have a purpose. I want something, and I'm willing to sacrifice to get it. I'm willing to sacrifice my time. I'm willing to sacrifice my body. I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of things. But I would only be doing that if I thought I had a chance, and I thought I had the ability to make it happen, or and I'm a fairly driven guy, and that's kind of where that's at. Like, if you don't have a reason, I couldn't even imagine, like, if I was just trying to go to the gym to look better. There's no way. There's absolutely no way I would do a cycle. Are you kidding me? TRT is different because I was low testosterone, and that was prescribed by a doctor, right? That's completely different. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's awesome. Even if you wanted to go on a low dose of test that was a little bit super physiological, I mean, I think there's tons of advantages for that. And you could talk to a doctor or healthcare professional and do some research, find out what the minimum efficacious amount is, and do some homework, and probably find a happy medium to be a little bit above and beyond. You could do that for a while. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But to just do cycles for no reason, to prove to YouTube you're stronger than someone, oh Lord, no. No, if I wasn't competing, there's absolutely no way in hell I'd be doing this. And the other thing they don't take into consideration is that I only do it before competitions. And it's only for a small window of time. But it's like, kind of like, what's the phrase, like, don't sow your pearls before swines? It's like, don't try to waste your time trying to convince somebody when they're closed-minded. They're not going to hear you, and it doesn't matter. They're going to believe what they want to believe anyways. So this isn't for them. It's for you guys to have good information. I've said in a few videos what I have taken. I don't know if it's appropriate to say that in a video or not, but if you guys want to know exactly my exact protocols to the amount, the milligrams of whatever compound, you're going to be surprised, because it's really a really small amount. It's barely above prescription level. And guys don't believe that. They're like, there's no way you would look like that. I'm like, dude, I have good genetics, and I almost look like this is a natural. Like, this is not that far off from what I looked like when I was 45. Shoulders a little bigger, a little more cut up. I like to think I was doing pretty good as a natty. Man, I was pretty cut, especially when I dieted down. I looked pretty good. And I was strong too. My squat was above 500. My deadlift was almost 600. My bench was 350 as a natural, 45 years old. Those are pretty good numbers for natty. I don't know. People are going to believe what they want to believe. I just keep reiterating it and keep hammering it home. You want to have good information. Check the motivation of the people you're listening to. See what they're about as people. Like, watch some of their other videos and just see what their content's about, and you'll get the picture really fast of like who they're serving or what their motivations are. For me, the thing is I don't want to be responsible for harming someone else. I don't want to be responsible. I don't want anyone to say, I did what that guy did because, it worked for him. It's like, you have no idea. You don't know about my training. You don't know about the years I've put into this. You don't know about my diet. You don't even, we haven't even really talked about what I'm taking. It's just like, no, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. This stuff is dangerous, and it's illegal in a lot of places. There's that to consider too. Is it legal where you are? Can you get it legally? Are you breaking any laws? There's a whole bunch of stuff to consider. It's not just like, I don't know. And the other thing is like, are you working with someone that knows what they're doing, or are you just, popping online forums and getting bad advice from gym bros or people that have no idea what they're doing? I mean, a lot of the stuff, when I first started researching, a lot of the information was really canned, and it was like a standard, do this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, where did they get that from? And it was like, those are based off of what guys in the past had done. And I'm like, well, where did those guys get their information from? And they're like, oh, they just sort of experimented and figured out what worked. Like, that's horrible. They get blood work or nothing? Like, that's a relatively new thing. I would start with go to a doctor. If you have exhausted every natural means of getting stronger and you hit a wall and you've really put years and effort into it, and you just, you're not seeing the results you want, and you're considering, doing something, go to a doctor and get your blood work done. At least, I think you should do that anyways, regardless, just to know. You know what I mean? You're not making any decisions. You're just taking a look what's under the hood, right? You're seeing how the oil's doing. You're seeing how the transmission's fluid's doing. I get the air in the tires. How's the brakes doing? That's all you're doing is just checking it. See what you need. Then from there, you can make an informed decision. And if you decide to go above and beyond that, you really got to do research. Research. I recommend highly More Plates, More Dates YouTube channel. Check him out. He is a wealth of information, and he cites all of his sources. So everything he talks about, they've got links to, so you can read the articles yourself. You can always trace back what he's talking about to the original author or published paper. That's a big thing. A lot of these guys that talk out of their ass, the first thing I ask is like, where are you getting this information from? Seriously, what's your source? I don't have one. I was just reading some blog online. Oh, well, yeah, that's what it sounds like. I don't know. I don't know if you got anything out of this or not. I'm putting my 2 cents in. This is what I'm going to tell you. I'm strong with or without the stuff. I always have been. I always will be. And I'm also very glad that I went on, because it's gotten me closer to my goals. How much longer will I be at it? I don't know. It depends on how close to my goals I get in this next competition. If I knock it out of the park and I by some miracle, break into a 1,700 pound total, I might just walk off into the sunset and call it a day, because that's about as good as it's going to get. I don't know if I'd want to go through what I would have to go through to get to that next 1,800 pound level. But you never know, because every time my bench has gone up and I said, oh, I'll be fine if I can get 3 plates. And then I got 3 plates and I'm like, oh, I'll be fine if I get 350. And when I got 350, I'm like, oh, I'll be fine when I get 400. And you're never fine. It's at some point, you got to just go, you done good, kid. Like you gave it the old college try. Maybe it's time to start coaching or something. So, we'll see. I always say this is going to be my last one. we'll see. As long as I continue to enjoy it and I'm passionate about it and we're having fun, I'll probably keep doing it. Will I keep doing it at the same level like that I've been trying to do it at? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll be like that old guy that just shows up to the local meets and just throws the singlet on just to be with the kids for the weekend. Maybe I'll be that guy. Maybe I'll coach my own team. You know what I mean? Maybe I will take over the state chair for Nevada. That would be cool. I'd be running the powerlifting meets. Yeah. And you know what? Right now, Dan, God, I forgot his name. He's president of the USBA. Holy shit. Steve Dennison. Wow. He still competes. He competed at Worlds. He threw the singlet on. So even though he's running all the meets, he still chucks that thing on and goes at it. And he's pretty strong still, too. Who am I going to take my advice from? Some dipshit on YouTube or guys that actually compete? I love you guys. I will see you on the battlefield.